Hi guys, I am Ibigandscary and I'm bringing you another replay featuring Fitzgen and Lexor. Fitzgen in the bottom left corner playing once again the teal/blue Terran. In the top right corner we have Lexor playing the red Protoss. If you watched last game you'll know that Lexor lost, but just barely, to Fitzgen, which can be expected because evidently Lexor is one league down from Fitzgen. Both of them had some very decent skills, very decent build orders, and they produced well off of them. But in the end, Fitzgen just had a little bit of a leg up over Lexor, who wasn't able to recover from the lead that Fitzgen got early on. Some features of the map, which is Daybreak, is that you have a very obvious, very short distance to the natural, which sits on the low ground. Easy to take, if not easy to hold. Moderate choke. It's protected by some destructible debris, and a loop around back door, which is not protected at all, leading to the third. However, if a army pokes at this starting ramp, they'll have to march all the way around to get to that back door. So you know by their absence that's exactly where that army's going to go. Pretty standard build opening, with the exception of Fitzgen grabbing the refinery before the barracks is done. That's going to give him just a little bit extra gas, and with Lexor's scouting probe in there, he knows that that extra gas is on the way. Maybe he's going to expect Fitzgen to get more of a gas-heavy build, leading more towards tech early, rather than that early aggression afforded by the extra minerals. A gateway coming down for him, as well as an assimilator, just like last time. We might expect Lexor to grab early refinery like he did in the previous game. Or maybe, since it didn't work last time, he'll try something else. Only time will tell. That probe is getting chased off by the SCV by Fitzgen, while another one drops the supply depot. If you were watching carefully, you'll see that the SCV slipped by. There's a small gap right there by the supply depots, which affords a small opening for units such as the Marine. I doubt very much a mortal will fit through there. Cybercore going down in Lexor's main base, and a secondary gas is being taken. The assimilator, or correction, the probe is hanging out, watching to see if Fitzgen grabs a natural early on. However, he's having none of it, using his Marines to hold off that probe and finally take it down. A very early factory is going down for Fitzgen, earlier than the last time, which I believe came after 3 racks were completed. A reactor's being dropped at the first barracks, which is odd because if you remember correctly, the tech lab was dropped before previously, so maybe that reactor is going to be used on the factory. Maybe we'll see Hellions coming out early on, or maybe that reactor is going to be used for a starport, though why that would be built on the barracks and not the factory is beyond me. However, Fitzgen undoubtedly knows what he's doing. Another gateway coming down. It's going to finish a couple seconds behind the Robo. Again, a very similar build by Lexor. He did very well with that early defense of the Immortal. However, it was very close. So maybe he's hoping to avoid that with that extra gateway coming down. Avoid that early pressure. There we see that the factory has taken advantage of that reactor. It's going to be cranking out 2 different Hellions at the same time. Those Hellions are going to be excellent for affording early pressure, especially due to the fact that Lexor has not walled off at all, and that his building placement really isn't protecting any of his probes from that early aggression by those Hellions. First observers coming out of the Robo is going to come down. He's going to see these 2 Hellions unless they take an awkward path, which they are. So that observer is going to miss those Hellions, and Lexor is going to get completely blindsided by this attack. I don't think this probe saw it either, but that pylon's a good place for some sneak attack action, as the warp gate is almost completed. Both concussion cells and stim are finishing off the tech labs as the Hellions move in for that earlier aggression. Position of the Immortal, position of the Stalkers mean that these Hellions really aren't going to be able to run in there and do too much damage. 2 Hellions in and of themselves isn't enough to one-shot any probes as long as they don't bunch up. And you can see that Lexor didn't even lose a single probe on that, though a lot of damage was dealt. No deaths, which means that overall the attack was a failure. 2 more Hellions. Fitzgen might have been better served waiting for a more critical mass of Hellions, 6, sometimes just 4, if he was more confident that he could out-micro Lexor, which, given last game, he might be able to. But as things stand now, these Hellions are going to be a very nice addition to the Zealots that Lexor might field. Stalkers, however, Hellions might have more of an issue with. The Immortal walking down and these pylon placements mean that Lexor is going to be able to do a lot more aggression. Fitzgen knows that this aggression is coming, so he's pulled off some SCVs, undoubtedly to repair those Hellions, and also to afford more of a meat wall in between the Immortal and the Stalkers. No Zealots here mean that the meat wall's not really 100% necessary, but always a nice addition, though it does cost a bit on the resources level. Fitzgen hasn't moved out and taken his expansion off of this aggression, which means that he's hoping to do a significant amount of damage with this aggression. You can see a Twilight Council coming down in Lexor's main. Going to be looking for Blink just like last time. He took a very decent amount of damage with that Blink, mitigating that, keeping his Stalkers alive, such as this one, which only has 3 HP. While those shields generate, it's going to be able to take a more active role. The sentries force fielding the base, allowing Fitzgen, denying Fitzgen the ability to rush in and actually do some damage, even though his army currently outnumbered Lexor's. Lexor, who is supply blocked and waiting for that pylon, which just now began to build. However, he has 3 sentries in place, all of which have very small amount of energy. Not quite enough to do a force field, but as time progresses, maybe they'll regenerate enough. Even if they don't, this army looks to be enough to deal with the depleted amount of units Fitzgen's capable of fielding right now. Yeah, these Stalkers are going to push forward, and the Immortal's going to do a critical amount of damage. Another Immortal coming out. Lexor really wants to get more than just 1 or 2 Immortals at a time. However, Fitzgen's done a great job at killing them off as time progresses. Lexor's feeling confident. He's dealt with that entire army fielded by Fitzgen, so he's pushing out to take his natural. Fitzgen evidently is going to throw out 2 different CCs, undoubtedly going to shift one of them to the orbital of command, if not both. Might seem like a waste to get 2 of them. However, the extra mules afforded by it will allow him to mine more minerals faster off of the limited number of bases. At the same time, he's throwing down extra barracks and a starport. That starport's going to take advantage of either the reactors or the tech lab add-on made by the barracks as the factory moves off. It seems that Fitzgen's given up on the early Hellion pressure. He might think that Fitzgen or Lexor isn't thinking about grabbing this natural. Maybe he doesn't think that's worth to do the probe line damage. Maybe he doesn't think that he can get in there. I'm not 100% sure. We're going to see, depending on if he thinks it's worthwhile to grab a bunch of medevacs, do some drop pressure. With Lexor having his observer placed thusly, he might think it's a good idea to pull down, take a look at what's going on inside the base. That sort of late scout can be vital to the longevity of a player. At the Twilight Council, Blink is beginning to finish up. Lexor is going to get into his groove, probably produce a significant amount of more Stalkers. Immortals and Stalkers don't really play well together. Stalkers' greatest benefit is their mobility, and Immortals' greatest benefit is their longevity, their ability to survive tough battles, long battles. Fitzgen, loading up all of his units into the medevacs, is going to do a drop. Those Hellions weren't able to run by this mass of Stalkers, this very mobile mass of Stalkers. And so what he's trying to do is drop into the back of Lexor's base. However, Lexor positioned this observer, and maybe he caught just the smallest of glances at that. No, you can see that he's not moving any of his units. Sentries are going in. but the probes are going down. Good reflexes by Lexor. He's pulling back his units quickly, and Fitzgen knows that he can't chase them down, so he's just trying to go for the Nexus. This small force, the two Immortals, 2 Sentries, and a Zealot aren't going to be enough to stop Lexor from losing this Nexus, and all the units get away pretty much scot-free. A little bit of damage. However, at the same time, Fitzgen finds that his natural is completely undefended, except for a handful of Marines and Marauders, and these Sentries are going to be very, very, very easily picking off this natural. However, Fitzgen, capable of lifting his orbital, brings it into the safety of his fold. These Sentries, with their mobility, are going to be able to skip and blink past any of the supply depots, even if Fitzgen was capable of raising them. The drop is coming back, but it's probably not going to be fast enough to prevent massive amounts of damage done by the very mobile stalkers. Once again, their mobility is the strongest asset of a stalker. Their ability to retreat from damage, survive damage, and repair with those shields. However, these 4 stalkers go down because Lexor just wasn't looking at the right place. Significant amount of probes have gone down, SCVs have gone down, whittling away the minerals that Fitzgen is going to be able to mine. Even though all 4 of these stalkers look to be cleaned up, there's really no SCVs left. Only 1 or 2 left to mine, and you can look at the supplies, 16 to 67. Lexor continuing to stream in his stalkers while he's got 2 bases completely mining away. Fitzgen knows that he's in a very, very bad spot. 18 to 74, and you can look over here, 3 SCVs to 35. He outnumbers him 10 to 1, and even though he's got 3 different stalkers, or 3 different orbital commands bringing down mules, it's not going to be enough to even out the count, the pure amount of minerals that he can field. Lexor picking off the last medevacs, and basically only has to deal with now is whatever units that Fitzgen can manage to scrape together. Only mining off of mules, and there's such a small amount of minerals left in the main that unless he can hold this natural, that's going to be the end of it. These stalkers are going to pick off this orbital and move right back up into the base and do some more pressure. Unfortunately, it just looks like Fitzgen's in a terrible place, and he's really not going to be able to field enough DPS to deal with these stalkers. Even if he did, Lexor's in such a comfortable lead that he'd just be able to sit back and macro. Yep, there we go. Fitzgen knows that he lost. He knows early with this 3rd going down. Lexor knew that even if Fitzgen was capable of cleaning out the rest of his army, Lexor would be able to hold back, re-macro, and just push in with a critical number. It was a very good game, though, and it was nice to see the adaptation by both players. Fitzgen trying to do the Hellion aggression, and Lexor sticking to his guns, going with that robo first, even though it failed the first time, and using the Immortal to do just some extra damage to those Hellions. It was a very good game. I will see you guys later. Bye.